Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into friendships.
Hmm.
It's something we all think about. And a lot of you were really interested in this YouTube video we found called Ask an Older Man.
Yeah, and this older man, he's 54 years old. He just comes right out and says, I don't have many close friends. And he really explains why.
That is so interesting because it does seem like, growing up, there was this pressure to make friends.
Absolutely.
Do you remember those awkward icebreaker games and things like that?
Yeah. Or just even the question, have you made any friends? It's like it ingrained in us.
Yes.
From the time we're kids.
From childhood.
It's a measure of success.
Yeah.
How many friends do you have?
Right, exactly.
But it makes you wonder, where does that come from?
And this video touches on that a little bit. He talks about the evolutionary aspect of it and how, way back when communities were essential for survival.
Right.
You needed your neighbors to help build a house or, protect your family from danger.
And he uses an example of building a house collectively.
Yes.
And the analogy of a village. And you really needed each other back then.
Right.
And I think that need for that connection is still in us today.
Right.
But it manifests in different ways because we don't need to
right.
literally survive together anymore like that.
Well, that's true. Although sometimes it does feel like it takes a village just to get through the day. Yeah, get through a week or get through all the things that you have to do.
Well, that's the thing is those deep interdependent relationships maybe aren't as common in modern society.
Right.
We're more mobile. We connect more through technology.
Yeah.
And sometimes that sense of community gets lost.
Yeah. So maybe we are putting this pressure on ourselves to have all these friends.
Right.
Because we're trying to recreate that feeling.
That sense of belonging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as it used to be.
And maybe that's why it feels so hard sometimes, too. Because we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So maybe instead of focusing on the quantity of friends, we should be asking ourselves what kind of connections actually enhance our lives.
And this video even goes as far as to say that having fewer friends can actually lead to fewer problems and distractions.
He does make that argument, and it is interesting to consider.
Right.
On the one hand, I can see how, if you have a smaller, tighter circle, you might have less drama, less, pressure to spread yourself thin. But then on the other hand, doesn't that kind of contradict this whole idea that we need connection and community to thrive?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So is he wrong, or is there a balance to strike?
I think there's a balance.
I think so, too.
I think it's not about isolating ourselves completely.
Right.
But it's about being more intentional with who we choose to let into that inner circle.
I think that's a key takeaway here is recognizing that not all friendships are created equal. And some might require more energy and effort than others.
Yes. And he even compares it to maintaining friendships, to maintaining romantic relationships, saying that both require work and understanding to thrive.
Yeah, he uses this analogy of avoiding marriage just because you've had a couple bad relationships.
Right.
Which seems a little extreme, but I see his point.
Well, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't give up on love just because we had a couple of heartbreaks.
Yeah, so why do we sometimes write off friendships so easily?
Yes.
So maybe we need to shift our perspective and see them as investments worth nurturing.
Okay.
Even when they go through those rough patches.
I like that.
And this kind of leads into another point he makes about social skills atrophy.
Okay, I got to be honest with you. That term threw me off a little bit.
It sounds very clinical.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Essentially, it's the idea that if we don't actively use our social skills, they can weaken over time, just like muscles can atrophy if you don't exercise them. So if we're not putting effort into maintaining friendships and navigating those inevitable ups or downs, we might lose some of the skills needed to build and sustain those meaningful connections.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, too, if there's a connection between that and the rising rates of loneliness and isolation, especially in younger generations.
Interesting.
It's interesting. It makes me think about my own daughters. They went from having these huge birthday parties when they were little to now as teenagers, they have much smaller, more intimate gatherings.
It's their social circles are naturally contracting as they figure out who they truly connect with.
Right. And the video even talks about how that continues into adulthood.
Yeah, especially in competitive work environments where it's, harder to form those genuine friendships.
Right.
He also talks about city living and how that can kind of exacerbate that sense of isolation.
Yes.
People not even knowing their neighbors' names.
Which is ironic because didn't the video creator himself make an effort to get to know his neighbors?
He did.
And it turned into a positive experience.
It did. He made a point of it. And, and that just goes to show that even in these seemingly isolating environments, there's potential for connection.
Yes.
It might take more effort.
Right.
But those local proximity friendships can be incredibly valuable.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to friendship.
Yeah.
Like, do we really need a huge social circle?
Right.
Or are we better off focusing on a few quality connections?
That's a question worth exploring, listener. What are your thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, we want to know.
What resonates with you?
Let us know.
So it seems like this idea of quality over quantity, it really challenges those deep-seated societal expectations we were talking about.
Yeah, like we've been conditioned to think that more friends equals a richer, happier life.
Right. More is always better.
Right. But maybe that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm. And I think social media plays a big role in this. We're constantly bombarded with images of people with these huge, glamorous friend groups.
Oh, totally.
And it can make us feel inadequate,
Absolutely.
Our own social lives don't measure up.
It's that comparison trap.
Yeah.
Like scrolling through these perfectly curated feeds, it can really distort our perception of what a normal social life even looks like.
Totally. We're only seeing a snapshot, a highlight reel. We don't see the effort, the compromises, the potential downsides of maintaining those large social circles.
Okay, so if we're kind of stepping back from this idea of quantity, how do we even begin to define quality when it comes to friendships?
That's a great question.
What makes a friendship truly valuable?
I think it's different for everyone, but generally speaking, I'd say a quality friendship is one that's mutually beneficial.
Okay.
It's a relationship where both parties feel supported, respected, and valued for who they are.
Like you can truly be yourself.
Exactly.
Without judgment.
Without pretense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about having someone who's there for you, not just in the good times, but also in the tough times. Someone you can rely on, someone who challenges you to grow.
Yeah.
And someone who celebrates your wins as if they were their own.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even with those close quality friendships, isn't it still important to have like a wider network of acquaintances?
Absolutely.
Or people you can, grab coffee with or chat with at a party?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think having a diverse range of social connections definitely has its benefits. It exposes us to new perspectives, broadens our horizons, and can even open up opportunities that we might not have otherwise.
So it's not necessarily an either-or situation.
I don't think so.
It's more about recognizing the value of different types of connections.
Right.
And finding a balance that feels right for us.
Yeah, and that balance might shift and evolve over time depending on, our circumstances, our needs. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to friendship.
And he even talks about different categories of friends in this video.
He does.
Like long-term friends from childhood, newer friends that we make, through work or shared interests.
Yeah.
And then like those proximity friends, like neighbors or people we see regularly at the gym or something like that.
It's interesting to think about how those different types of friendships serve different purposes in our lives.
Yeah.
Long-term friends often provide a sense of history and shared experience.
Right.
Newer friends bring fresh perspectives and challenge us to grow.
Yes.
And proximity friends can offer that sense of community and belonging that's sometimes missing in modern life.
I like that a lot. That really resonates with me.
Yeah.
I have friends from all different phases of my life. And they each bring something unique to the table.
That's the beauty of friendship.
Yeah.
It's a tapestry woven from all these different threads.
Yeah.
Each contributing to the richness and complexity of the whole.
Okay, so we've talked about quality over quantity.
Right.
Different categories of friends.
Yeah.
The importance of finding a balance that works for us.
Yeah.
But how do we actually nurture these relationships in a meaningful way?
Yeah.
Life gets busy.
Yeah.
It's so easy to let those intentions fall by the wayside.
You're absolutely right. It takes effort and intentionality to cultivate and maintain strong friendships.
Okay.
But I think it comes down to those small, consistent actions that show our friends we care.
Like what? Give me some examples.
It could be as simple as sending a quick text to check in.
Yeah.
Or scheduling a regular phone call with a friend who lives far away, remembering important dates like birthdays or anniversaries.
I love the idea of creating shared experiences.
Yes.
Like planning a weekend trip or trying a new restaurant together.
Yeah, or even just committing to a weekly walk in the park or something.
Right.
Those shared moments create lasting memories and really strengthen those bonds.
And those shared experiences don't have to be grand or expensive or anything.
No, not at all.
It's more about the quality of the time spent together.
Exactly.
And the genuine connection that's fostered.
And sometimes the most meaningful gestures are the simplest ones, like offering a listening ear when a friend is going through a tough time.
Yes.
Helping out with a chore. Or just being there to celebrate their wins, no matter how big or small.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So nurturing friendships is about being present, being supportive, and being intentional about creating those shared experiences that deepen those bonds.
And recognizing that friendships, just like any relationship, require work and understanding. There will be ups and downs, disagreements, maybe even periods of distance.
Right. It's about navigating those challenges with empathy and communication.
Yeah.
And remembering that even the strongest friendships require tending to thrive.
Beautifully said. Now, what about making new friends as adults?
Okay.
You know, the video touched on this briefly, but I think it's something a lot of people struggle with, especially if they've moved to a new city or are feeling socially isolated.
Yeah, it can be intimidating.
It can.
Like, where do you even start?
Well, I think the first step is shifting our mindset. You know, we need to be open to new connections and be willing to put ourselves out there, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable at first.
That's easier said than done.
For sure. But remember, everyone's looking for connection on some level, and you never know who you might meet or what kind of friendship might blossom from a seemingly random encounter.
Okay, so what are some practical ways to put ourselves out there and meet new people?
Well, he mentioned joining clubs or groups that align with your interests.
Yeah.
That's a great way to meet like-minded people who are already passionate about something you enjoy.
And volunteering for a cause you care about?
Great idea.
Yeah.
Plus, you're making a positive impact on your community.
Exactly.
At the same time.
And don't underestimate the power of those everyday interactions. Like striking up a conversation with someone at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Introducing yourself to a new neighbor, or even just offering a genuine compliment.
Exactly.
Those small gestures can sometimes lead to unexpected connections. And if you're feeling really bold, you can even host like a small gathering or potluck.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great way to bring people together in a casual, low-pressure environment.
So whether it's joining a club, volunteering, or just being more open to those everyday interactions, the key is to create opportunities for connection.
Yeah, and to remember that building new friendships takes time and effort.
Right.
It's about being patient, being persistent, and most importantly, being yourself.
Okay, so we've covered nurturing existing friendships and putting ourselves out there to meet new people.
Right.
But what about those friendships that have maybe run their course or become more draining than fulfilling?
Yeah.
How do we navigate those tricky situations?
That's a great question, and something we can explore further in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll delve into the nuances of letting go of friendships that no longer serve us and setting healthy boundaries.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll continue this fascinating conversation about the complexities of friendship in our modern world. So we've been talking about, nurturing those close, fulfilling friendships.
Right.
But what about the friendships that feel more draining than uplifting?
Yeah.
Like the ones that leave you feeling exhausted or maybe just negative?
Well, it's important to acknowledge that not all friendships are meant to last forever.
Right.
Sometimes people grow apart, circumstances change, or maybe the dynamic just isn't working anymore.
And recognizing that can be really tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to admit that a friendship isn't serving you, especially if you've known this person for a long time or you have a lot of shared history.
Absolutely. There can be guilt, fear of hurting someone's feelings, or maybe even a sense of loyalty that makes it hard to step away.
Yeah, I think there's also that societal pressure that we were talking about.
Yeah.
This idea that we need to hold on to friendships no matter what.
Like it's a failure if you end a friendship.
Yeah.
But sometimes letting go can be an act of self-care.
Right. It's about prioritizing our own well-being and recognizing that we deserve to be in relationships that make us feel good.
Exactly.
Not drained or depleted.
And it's not selfish to want that.
Right.
In fact, sometimes ending a friendship that's no longer serving you can free up space for new, more aligned connections to come into your life.
So how do we even begin to navigate those tricky situations?
Yeah.
How do we know when it's time to let go of a friendship?
Well, I think it's important to pay attention to how you feel after spending time with this person.
Okay.
Do you feel energized and uplifted? Or do you feel drained and negative?
It's a good gauge.
Yeah. Is this friendship adding to my life
Yeah.
or taking away from it.
What if it's a long-standing friendship, though?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it worth trying to salvage it?
Of course, communication is key in any relationship. And sometimes having an honest conversation with your friend about what's not working can actually strengthen the bond.
So it's worth trying to address those issues directly before making any, drastic decisions.
Absolutely. Be open, be vulnerable, express your needs in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And if your friend is receptive to that, you might be able to work through those challenges together.
But what if they're not receptive?
Yeah.
What if the dynamic doesn't change despite your efforts?
Well, that's when you have to make some tough choices.
Right.
It might mean creating some distance, setting boundaries, or even ultimately deciding to end the friendship.
That sounds so difficult.
It can be.
Do you have any tips for how to navigate those conversations in a healthy way?
I think it's all about honesty, respect, and clarity.
Okay.
Be direct about how you're feeling and what you need, but avoid blaming or attacking the other person.
Right. It's about taking ownership of your own feelings and needs.
Exactly.
Not making it about what they're doing wrong.
And sometimes simply stating this isn't working for me anymore can be enough. You don't owe anyone an elaborate explanation or justification for your decision.
It's also important to remember that you can't control how the other person reacts.
That's true.
They might be hurt, angry,
yeah,
or even defensive.
And that's okay. Their reaction is their own, and you don't have to take responsibility for it.
So letting go of a friendship could be a challenging process,
Uh-huh.
but it can also be a liberating one.
It can be very liberating.
Yeah.
It's about choosing to invest our time and energy in relationships that support our growth and well-being.
Exactly. And that's something worth celebrating.
It is.
It seems like this whole deep dive has really been about challenging these ingrained assumptions we have about friendship.
Those expectations that we've internalized.
From the idea that more friends equals a better life,
right,
to the belief that we have to hold on to all friendships no matter what.
It's okay to let go.
Maybe it's time to rewrite the rules of friendship.
I like that.
Focusing on quality over quantity, being intentional about the relationships we nurture, and recognizing that sometimes letting go can be just as important as holding on.
Absolutely. It's about creating a social circle that reflects who we are, where we are in life, and what truly brings us joy and fulfillment.
So, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive, we're going to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
What one small step can you take today to nurture a friendship that brings you joy?
Yeah.
Or to create space for new, meaningful connections?
Good question.
To enter your life.
The possibilities are endless. And remember, the journey of friendship is a lifelong adventure.
Yes, it is.
Embrace the ups and downs, cherish the connections that make your heart sing, and never be afraid to let go of the ones that no longer serve you.
Until next time, happy diving.